Okay, so let's start. Well, firstly, thank you for your coming and you're welcome to the course of corporate finance. Let me share screen. I've uploaded a PDF document to the chat window. You can download it. Okay, this is the lecture note about the course. And here in my email address. Well, I'm from School of Economics rather than School of Management. Well, we're neighbors indeed. And well, let me note that my office number is, I write down here. It is office 813, the Mingde Hall, the 8th floor. You're welcome to come to my office for any you have. And the email address is teaching@petergood.net. Peter is my English name, though I never use that indeed. Feel free to drop me an email when you have any question. And for this note, I wrote quite a few things. Reading this can give you a very big picture about the finance, about the corporate finance and how it goes. And also we have a table. Well, that's only in schedule. It tells you that for each week what we will do. Well, today we go through the corporate and financial markets. And for next week, it's about financial diligence and law of one price, which are both very fundamental but very important in the course. And for the third week, we will have an introduction about the time value of money. And then there'll be something related to the project and the firm valuation. There will be some overlaps between this course and the course of financial statement analysis if you have one. And then they'll go through some chapters about risks, which are very important in finance. And then we have some time for long-term and short-term financing. If any time left, I'll have introduction about the corporate governance. The textbook we have is written by Bertrand de Margo with the name of corporate finance. The latest version of this book is the 5th version. It's really expensive. And I've ordered a second version for you because that's reprinted in China and it's very cheap. I'm not sure where they have got it. The difference between the 5th and second version is not large, so we can just go through them. If you have a preference about the latest version, go online and you know what to do. This course will be English, of course, because I think we have some international students, even though my English is quite limited. Oh well. Well, it's neither 10:30 nor 10:15. It's 10:20. Okay, don't worry. That's fine. Well, this course is about, it'll be in English, of course. And the evaluation, final evaluations will be you will have a paper, a final examination paper. And for 30% of the score, it'll be based on your daily performance. And for the majority, that's 70%. It'll be based on your final examinations. So be prepared. Okay, so let's go through the course. But today I prefer to use the whiteboard rather than some slides. So we can go through that step by step. Well, let me show you the whiteboard here. Okay. Well, you're welcome. Okay, we have a course here with the name Corporate Finance. So you find that this course is so popular among the different majors. In accounting department, we have it. And in the finance department, we have it too. And in school management, we have that either. This is because it's just a core for many areas. So what's the topic of this? I have a definition that is easygoing. So I'll say corporate finance is just we investigate or intend to understand some issues in corporations. So can you or can you not hear me? Okay. We investigate, we intend to understand some issues in corporations or firms within the framework of finance. So you'll see, this course is just we go through some issues in corporations with borrowing some knowledge from finance. So what are issues in corporations? So what are they? Well, when referring to a firm, we say the very basic topic or the very fundamental task of a firm manager or a firm owner is to make sure that it can survive. For survival of a firm, we must make sure that the firm can generate adequate cash flows, or in human language, it can earn enough money to cover its costs. Otherwise, the cash flow can dry out and the firm can die. However, maintaining the survival of a firm is not easy. You must have very superior business models. You have very good operations, and you have very good luck with fortune sometimes to do this. And well, we will not have any discussion about this strategy here because that's related to another course. But what we will do here is about the fundamentals. For example, how the value of firm can change from time to time. And how can we assess or evaluate a firm in terms of their cash flows in future? How can we make decisions about whether to replace some equipment or whether to start a new business? We even have some discussions about how can firm extend their business by merge and acquisition. Merge and acquisition means you buy in some other units of firm and business. It can be related to your current business, which we call horizontal marriage or merge, or we just combine things together in a value chain. That is, we buy or we purchase the suppliers or their customers. By doing this, we call that a vertical integration. These are all related to finance and to corporate finance. But don't worry, because the range of corporate finance is so large that we can never finish them up in a single term. If you have a chance to go to the library and find a series of books named The Handbook of Corporation, the Handbook of Corporate Finance, you will have 3 volumes. For each volume, it's just more, we say, ASCII and dictionary. If I did not make a mistake in my memory, it can be 1,500 pages long. And the coverage is so wide, it ranges from the very fundamental structure of a firm to some very advanced topics like the structuralism of the management or something else. For this course, however, we start from the very beginning, or the ABCs of this course. So let's go further. The topic or the target of this course. Well, you don't have to worry too much because this is indeed undergraduate so it will start and only cover some very basic ideas. However, these ideas, though simple, can be useful for you to understand some more complicated issues in future when you need that. For example, some students will say, well, I'm going to seek a career in some investment banks. And very likely I work in the corporate finance department. Well, in this kind of department, you would just look at an analyst or as an agent for MAs, where you will need some very fundamental ideas about the course. And for mathematics, don't worry too much. In case you have sufficient knowledge of math, of algebra, in high school. Remember, we only need algebra, but we don't need geometry. And also, there is no need for calculus here. Calculus, linear algebra, or not for probability theory here. However, you do need calculus when you refer to some advanced courses in corporate finance, but not here. However, well, some elementary knowledge on statistics would be helpful when referring to some chapters about risks. Okay, so that is the requirement of mathematics. We don't need to worry too much. And for the assignments, they'll be voluntary, and you don't have the requirement to do that. But you must make sure you can work it out. Otherwise, you face a disaster in your final examinations. It's a warning. It's not a joke. Okay, so let's start with some ideas about this course. We'll start from the very beginning. Okay, so topic 1. We have a discussion about some sort of word like finance and corporate finance. By the way, may I ask that if you have finished your course in finance or not? Or do you have any idea about finance? So what is finance? We have a first question in this course. Question 1. What is finance? We always have a discussion about finance, corporate finance, which is very important. So what is finance? Finance, well, it's just something about money. I always say finance is just another word of money. That means how we spend money, how we earn money, and how we manage money. And for managing money, we are trying to make sure that we can earn as much money as possible, but at the same time, expose ourselves to as little risk as possible. Or in other words, we would like to seek for highest return given a certain level of risk. Let us say we're referring to investment. We bear two things. One is the return. that is how much you can earn in future. And the other is the risk. That is how likely you will lose your money. So, before the discussion, we have two elements. Return and risk. We'll have some very strict definitions later, but now I will say return means how much money you can earn in future. And for risk, it is about how likely you will lose certain amount of money. Definitely, everyone welcomes positive return, but they have natural aversion to risks. So, the ultimate target, that means it can either be very simple or it can be very remote of finance, is to maximize your return while keeping your risk to a minimum level. This is quite weird, right? Because we always say high return is accompanied by high level risk. But how can we enlarge or increase return while reducing the level of risk we're exposed to? But it is very likely. How can we make it? We can do this by structuring some portfolios. Portfolio means different kinds of stocks, options, bonds, or other derivatives. We put them all together into a collection. In this collection, for some parts, the price can go up, while at the same time, for some other parts, the price can go down. Because they're in the same package, the price going up and the price going down can hedge. By doing so, you have a very certain amount of return with very high stability. And this technique in finance is called hedge. For some very large funds in US, about 95% of these funds are indeed hedge funds. In China, for 10 years, we have very huge development of hedge funds. 10 years ago, when I was studying in UK, I have friends working in the Chinese finance industry. They told me that the hedge fund in China is very limited. Partly because we are not an open market. We have very strict restrictions on trading. For example, you find it very hard for you to short a stock. Well, do you know short? Well, let me show you. We have a question here. We all know that when the stock price appreciates. That means they're going up. We can earn money simply by purchasing the stock in at a low price and then sell it when the price goes high. By doing so, we earn, we call that capital gains. But my question is, how can we still earn something when the stock price goes down in that area? Well, let me have you an example. For example, the stock price for firm A now is 100 USD share, and it is estimated that the price can go down to 70 in 3 months. So what should we do?
Maybe we can sell it first and then buy it. Then we can make money.
Well, but probably that you do have the share. How can you sell it?
What? Have the share?
Yeah, we do have the share.
Oh, we
Okay.
can borrow it. We can borrow it from
Very,
others.
very good point.
We
Very
can
good,
borrow it.
very
yes.
good point. You borrow it in from others, and then you sell it. And in 3 months, you buy it back, and then
Yes, exactly.
return that to the borrower. For this kind of trading, we call that short selling. But several years ago, short selling in China is very limited, only to some professionals. And such restrictions on short selling can lead to very big problems when you're trying to hedge. So that is why for a long time in China we have very limited products who call themselves hedge funds. Well, very good question. Very good answer. Thank you. So now we can see that no matter whether the stock price is going up or going down, we can always earn money. That is about finance. So, so a lesson from finance is always said, never speculate. Investment is about science, but not about your fortune. So now return to this question. What is finance? I have a very simple definition about modern finance. Very modern finance is indeed a combination of mathematical theory and, well, money. It is about finance. As for The Big Short, and someone mentioned, this is a very interesting movie. I would suggest you have a watch. Have a go. That's a very nice movie. So, finance. Finance is a science of money. It's based on mathematics. So if you have any friends who are now studying in the finance department, you will find they have a lot of mathematical courses. So they're all struggling. Okay, this is the very first question. So second question is, about corporate finance. Corporate finance, in fact, our focus is on the firm, right? So I have a square here. This is the firm. And it's also the very starting point of our course. For finance or for a firm, we're indeed dealing with or interacting with two different markets. This is because for a firm, we import something. Here I will say we import. It can be raw material, it can be human resource, or it can be investments. They're often the suppliers of a firm. And with some operations, productions, we will generate or will produce some products, which I'll say export. And then it exports to something that we say the market, the product market. And for that kind, or no, yeah, that's fine. And for this part, where do we get the raw material? Because suppliers, which is in fact also the product market. So this is on the product market. We're buying the raw materials and we sell products. And we earn the money by taking a spread between the price of the stock with the production and the price that we pay for the raw material. Right, so the spread is the key to our business. However, for a firm, you have some core problems. You will need some money to start your business before getting any penny back. It's natural, because we need some money to buy the equipment, to rent the warehouse, to buy raw materials, and to employ our workers, managers, so we can start a business and then make our products. But how can we get the money? We have different channels. If you're rich enough, let's go straight forward. Get the money out of the pocket and put it in the firm. We run the business by ourselves. However, on the most occasions, we don't have the amount of money because for the very big firms, the amount of funds can be sometimes millions or even trillions of dollars. I don't think very much people can have that kind of money. So what should we do then? We will have to borrow or to ask someone else to give us the money. And we promise that once you give me the money, we will reward you with something else. The rewarding can be flexible or be fixed. If you would prefer some fixed amount of money as a return, you lend the money to us, and they will pay you back in the form of principals, that is money you lend, or the interest, that is the surplus, as the compensation. Or instead, someone will say, well, you have a very small idea about a business, and I would like to fight with you, to work with you. However, I don't have time. I only have money. So I put my money into your firm, and you have the freedom to use that. However, after earning some money, you have to pay me back with a certain amount of return that you have earned. By doing so, we call that investment rather than borrowing or lending. Indeed, borrowing or lending money from the market is channel 1, or trying to persuade someone to invest, the channel 2, are two main channels for the firm to get their money or financing themselves, which we will have a discussion later in this course. And very interestingly, you'll find by borrowing money from others, you're having an obligation. That is, you're obliged to pay the money back in a fixed term, which was scheduled before the formal transfer of money. We have an agreement. So sometimes people will say borrowing or lending can be very stressful because you have an obligation to pay the money back in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 or 10 years. And there's no other way to work around. If you fail to pay the money back, well, we're sorry. Your firm is now my firm. Right. However, for investments, things are different. Because once you invest into something, you have to bear the risk that your money can dry up. Drying the money up means it leaves nothing. You get nothing left. However, you also have a chance to earn big money. For example, 2 or 3 years ago, I did an investment. At the time, when reading some PC magazines, I'm a strong fan of PC equipment. I suddenly find that at the time, the AMD, someone will know that, it's around the micro chipset. That's a very big counterpart to Intel, a very large chip maker in the world. They were announcing that they would have a new chipset. The performance was so strong that it overruns the counterparts from Intel. Given my age, when I was young, we had a very strong popularity about AMD products at the time because they always offer very good performance but with very low price. However, they were left behind. The things we say 2005 or 6, when we have multiple cores chipsets, and in 10 years they come back again. And I just looked into my system and find that at the time, the AMD stock price was $10 per share. Remember, $10, $10 US dollars. So I put my money in, which is, we say, 100 shares. That only spent me about 1,000 US dollars. Soon after the announcements, the stock price go skyrocketing, and I sold the stock at the price of 80. At the time, I was saying, well, the price is high enough, and it's time to leave. After my leaving, well, that was a sad story, because the price goes up again to 120. But even though I felt very satisfactory, because I earned about 7,000 US dollars in 1 month. So that is the attractiveness of investment. In theory, you have unlimited range of return if you're fortunate enough. However, the investment is double rewarded. That means you also have the chance to lose all your money, right? We used to have a joke, we say that taking a long position is very interesting. You can enjoy unlimited scope of return. You have only 100 to lose. Interesting, right? That means you can earn 200, 500, or even 1000% of money you have invested. And the maximum level of loss is only 100%. However, quite a few people just overlook the problem that if they lose the full percentage of money they have invested, quite a few of them means they have nothing left, including their dinner. So it's not interesting, right? Well, that's it. So we must get some money at the beginning. And what's more, if the business runs perfectly, meaning that the firm earns enough money to cover their costs. And what's more, they even have some cash extra that they have no idea what to do. Well, that's dreamless, right? We all hope that one day we can have enough money, and we have concerns about the money, like how to spend it. So what should they do then, if they have some money extra? Well, now it's time for daydreaming. If you have, we say, 1 trillion US dollars, that would be far enough for you to buy the whole street in Shenzhen or even in Hong Kong. then what will you do? You will have the very best community in the world that can enjoy your PC games. You can even have a private cinema that you can enjoy movies yourself without any disturbing. You can have the world's best food that you can ever imagine. So what do I do then? Once you have some money left, I suppose you would do some investments. So for salary way, you need some money to run your business. You will need something we call external financing. And for some firms, they have very enough money they will have to invest. And for this issues we say no, it's not secure. I will need a square. For this part, we call that capital and monetary markets. So now you can see we have two at the firm, we have two markets to deal with. One is the product market, where you can buy your raw material and you can sell the market, sell the product back to the market. And also we have deal with the capital and monetary markets. For capital market, we just do some financing work. We try to attract or even chase our investing potential to get some money out of their pocket and put them into our account. Or we can even ask someone or even the banks to lend us some money. We call this kind of lending or borrowing as loans. By doing this, you have to deal with the capital market. Similarly, if we are doing some international business, we purchase our material in China and we sell products in Europe, which are very common for quite a few firms in Guangdong province. But how can we convert our revenue in pounds, for example, with our costs in Chinese yuan? Well, we will have to get to the monetary market to buy in or to sell some foreign currencies and then convert them back into Chinese yuan. So we can use all this money either to extend our business or to cover the costs that help generate all this revenues. Let's see about the market. And well, you will ask me, who will invest? This refers to another very big topic. In finance world, we have two different types of investors. In Chinese, we call that 散户, but in English, we call that retail investors. And for the others, we have few people with very large amount of money. Sometimes they work or they stand for the finance firms, or investment banks. We call these guys, no, not wholesale. We call this professional investors. And the percentage of retail or professional investors in the market can go vary from market to market, from industry to industry, or even from country to country. I used to have the statistics that was several years ago that in US, 95% of investors actively involved in the market were pros or professionals. But in China, we have very huge amount of retail investors. So what are the differences? Professional investors have trained well. They will use their knowledge either to form a portfolio or to carefully control their risks while maintaining a certain level of return. But for most retail investors, they have their own theory. Well, whether the theory itself is the problem. They just trust themselves. They have very different styles of investments. So, if you have a chance to make or to choose, would you like to invest in the market where there are high levels of retail investors or not? My answer is that I would prefer to put some money in the market where professional investors play a major role. This is because for markets where most investors are professionals, they have very high efficiency and the pricing can be very smart and accurate. That is, if you put your firm into that kind of market for financing purposes, you don't have to worry about whether your firm will be overvalued or be undervalued. Well, someone asked me saying that, what's the concern about it? Well, let's see. If your firm is overvalued, for example, that firm was about $1 million. But you will find that the market treats you as something like $5 million. You will feel very happy, right, or even delighted, because that means you can get or you can capture a large amount of money that in fact exceeds what you have as cash flow. However, we have to admit that your true underlining can be discovered eventually by investors or by the market. The only problem left is that whether or how far can they realize that you was $1 million only instead of $5 million that they have regarded at the beginning. Once the market realized that they were overpaid, or they overpaid their money for the investment, there will be a very large crash of the stock price, which is disastrous. Right. As for the undervaluing, well, this is very strict. That is, if you find the firm is undervalued, you suddenly find you cannot get enough money that you have estimated when referring to the market. This is also not interesting, right? That means you have to ask the investors to buy more shares or to increase the amount of money they can borrow from your debtors. It can be individual, it can be other firms, or it can be a bank. Right. But selling too much shares to your investor can dilute your own share, and your controlling right to this firm might be lost, which is not interesting, right? And for borrowing or lending, huge amount of borrowing or lending can result in very huge or very heavy obligations. This will be very stressful. If you can't imagine how stressful it is, I'll provide you something similar. Just imagine you have 1 week left for your final examination of the corporate finance, and you have not even opened the book yet. Your book you have was brand new, and suddenly realize that if you fail the course this time, you won't graduate, and the degree or your diploma or even both will say, hey, goodbye, my friend, I'm going with the wind. You'll feel very stressful, right? So this is called stress. But how can we make it? So we need some strategies to discuss or to investigate. First question, do we need external financing? That is, shall we finance the firm by employing external resources or by funding from my pocket? Well, given that I have enough money. Otherwise, this option will go great. You have no chance to click it. Okay, once decided that we will get some money for financing, what should we do? Shall we go and borrow money from a bank or from some professionals, or we should go through IPOs, trying to persuade our investors to get the money in? This is not a very simple choice. We needed to do some due diligence and to have a lot of discussions. So this will also be referred in our course. For borrowing or lending, I will show you a calculator as to how to make sure you pay or you get more from your borrower or from your lender. Well, the answer is very simple. We accrue our interest from once per year to once per 6 months, or once per quarter, or if you're greedy enough, once per month, or once per day. And you will find the actual interest you receive if you're a lender, or the actual interest you have to pay if you're a borrower, would increase with high frequency of accruals. That is, if our interest rate is counted once per month, for the same amount of rates, same amount of money we investing, you'll find you have to pay more than those borrowing money from a retailer or agent who accrue their interest only once per year. So this is true. So given that we have two markets to deal with, one is the product market, the other is the capital and monetary market. Then, why do we need corporate finance? In fact, the main battlefield for corporate finance in fact it is business activities. You'll find that, well, this was a bit abstract and find it can be very hard to understand. So what is called business activities? Well, it is in fact a set. It can be providing problems. I'm right here. One. Pricing. Pricing means that you're trying to know how much it can really worth. In fact, we have two branches of finance. One is called corporate finance. That is what we're now discussing. The other is called assets pricing. Well, asset pricing have very little things to do with corporate finance because they were mostly they call themselves financial mathematicians. I used to have discussed with a professor from Department of Mathematics at the Castle University, where I took my PhD. So I asked him, I said, hey, Paul, Paul, hey, Paul, I suddenly find that people who are now working in the finance industry would say they were talent in financial mathematics. Paul smiled to me, saying that, June, as an authentic mathematician like me, there were only two groups of people in the world. I asked him, what were they? Well, very simple. Someone who knows mathematics and someone who does not know mathematics. What's the joke, right? So for corporate finance guys, most of them cannot do mathematics well. I am included. So that is why in the 3rd year of my college, I transferred myself to accounting department. That was the reason why. Okay, so financing means you will have to discover how much the firm can still earn. But be careful because this kind of AI system were very unstable nowadays. They were still on the series of betas. Beta in software engineering means trials, testing versions, all bugs can make. Okay, it's about financing. But more importantly, we will have operations, asset management, financing or or some other expenditures. However, all the things cannot run one particular item. Or rely on. Financial diligence. Because we have to get decision as to where we should go and how can we make it. And that is why we need finance. Someone asked me, well, Jin, be careful. How can you link the financial diligence back to something we have discussed? That is why we need finance. Because in the world of accounting, we have a very simple but very workable suggestion. That is, we based on the cost and benefit principle. Okay. So what is called cost and benefit principles? That is, we will do that only on the condition that the reward we have exceeds the cost that we have to pay. This is called cost and benefit principle. Well, let me show you one example in real life. You know, most ladies, no matter whether they were young or old, have a very strong preference of shopping, especially with some cosmetics or clothing. And unfortunately, I'm always invited by my wife and sometimes by my daughter for walking, for a walk. Well, their walk can never happen in the near park. That can only happen with me in some very popular shopping malls. And they will always ask me, hey, can you see how does this clothes feel? How does this blouse feel? How does this dress feel or skirt feel? So now it's time for me to make my financial decisions. Often, on the most occasions, I would turn the clothes over secretly to find a tag, small tag, near the neck or some other parts of the clothing to see how much the clothes costs. Now, if I find the clothes is really expensive, it is over 1,500, for example, for a very simple dress, what should I do then? Now, let's have some rest. You can enjoy some fresh air for 10 minutes and then come back and tell me, what would you suggest me to do? Okay, we'll just be back in 10 minutes. Okay, friends, let's move on. So, any suggestion about what I should do when I'm asked about, well, how do you feel about my dress? How do you feel about the clothes? How do you feel about the blouse? Does that fit? Okay, then I turn the clothes back and find a small tag, and suddenly find was, well, the price was very high. Well, at the time, my decades of training on mathematics now start to work. I would adopt the principle of cost benefit. I put the dress in hand. You know, for ladies' clothes, they're always very soft and very light. I would say, well, I suppose the cost of this dress can never be over 100 or 200. But the price is 1,500. And what's more importantly, that it is me to pay the bill. Well, I don't want to do it. It is not a right thing to do. That's what a man with a PhD degree in finance should do. So, well, sometimes you have to balance between your professional training on finance and the life or about survival of yourself. So what should I do then? Well, after years of training and what I learned from the sales ladies, I said, well, dear, this dress is very good and very high quality. However, I find the clothes or the pattern is not so well. It cannot fit your handbag or your shoes very well. At the time, I would say, well, now I can save some money. But she replied, whoa, thank you for the suggestion. You were so nice and you're so professional. And well, let's go and get a new bag. In finance, we call this misjudgment. Well, that's a joke. Okay, so when referring to corporate finance, we always deal with the business activities in the firm, like buying or acquiring other assets, or spin off or sell the assets. And we also deal with some issues about getting money from outside. We call that external financing, either through the way of equity, where we call stock, or via liabilities, which we call loans. That means borrowing or lending some money. And the firms have very much cash on the balance sheet, which is very common nowadays when reading a report from Facebook, Google, or Amazon. In the old days, about 20 or 30 years ago, people in industry or people in academia will say that too much cash on your balance sheet is not good, because it means that it suspects that the manager or management team of the firm is not capable. They fail to find enough investment opportunities where this money can go. However, in recent years, the viewpoint is starting to be challenged. One reason is that nowadays the competition among firms are very intense, and it is very difficult for firms to maintain their profitability and their comparative advantage without huge amount of money of devotion into their research and development. That is, they will spend a lot of money trying to make new products, to develop new technologies, or to have new patents. The R&D, or the research and development behavior or activities, are very money and time consuming. And that also explains the gaps between the universities in China and some top schools in US and Europe. This is because we don't have enough time and money devotion. And this is just the reason why. For the other reason, however, it is about the taxation. We all know that nowadays big firms are always running their business globally. Like Amazon, in 1995, Amazon was just a bookseller selling books online. They have a very simple website listing all the books they have. You just search there, and then tell the website what you want, and then you run to the nearest post office, trying to do a wire transfer to get the money there. This was 1995. However, nowadays, Amazon becomes the largest cloud service provider in the world. Cloud service provider means it devotes much money in the internet infrastructure, like servers, like the center, like connections. So things can change. But how can they make it? That means Amazon spends a huge amount of money to do that. Right? We have other examples as well, like we say Apple and so on. So to support the innovations or to support the recent development where there can occur very large amount of expenses, and in most that's just problem that this expenses in accounting. So these firms, without any formal agreement, all decides to put a huge amount of money on the balance sheet without any further investment to fulfill or intend to fulfill any cash shortage from their R&D department. So this is about cash. And also, if they decide to get all the money back from Europe, like we say Facebook or Google in Ireland, if they decide to transfer the money from these Irish accounts into their domestic accounts in US, they will face very huge amount of taxations. And this is also the reason why they decide to put money on their balance sheet overseas. So it's a different way. All the discussions about whether the firm should hold high or low cash flows are indeed corporate finance. Something you have grasp of it? Okay, now let's return to the cost and benefit. I totally that my wife asked me about the 1500 dress the fitness, and I replied with an intention to reject the order, only because I find that the cost of clothing is way too low, and the clothes should not be sold in such a high price. However, how can I evaluate or assess the actual cost of the clothing? It's the same for the decision making in the context of corporate finance. We are now deciding, for example, whether to extend our business in another country, or whether we should renew our loan contracts with the bank to face the increased demands in next year. All these things are also based on two things: the cost and the benefit. For the benefit, it is very comprehensive. Once you have done this, you earn some money, right? For example, if you have devoted much time in developing new software, it might be successful. But what is the cost? The cost is very hard to calculate because it needs assessment. You have to evaluate how much you have to pay for getting this. The money we must pay not include only the actual purchasing price of the product, I mean the market price, but include a lot of new troubles. Like we have to collaborate with other department for the data or for the evaluation process or and so on. And what's the problem? It can lower down the overall efficiency of the firm or even the market. In the end, it becomes very disastrous. And people ask me, how can I know the price or of the service or product? Unfortunately, you have no direct ways of knowing this. For example, before the start of the final examination, I always encounter groups of students coming to my office or through the phone or through WeChat or even email, trying to ask me what will be covered in the final examination. Do you know, or do you think I will tell them what will be covered or not? No, never. Because it goes against laws in Ashenton University. And I'm not encouraged to lose my job. So, what should I do then? Now, given that you have no chance to get it from my side as to what will appear in your final examination paper, but you feel so anxious or even panic that you have done nothing about the course, and the only way you can save yourself is to make sure that the most questions were dealt with. So we have to find some other alternative ways to do this, right? It's the same for the firm. We will have to make sure very clearly or cautiously that the plan or the something can work. If you still have no idea about what can happen, I would suggest you to go to the site in Europe, or no, in US, trying to find the records on the Congress about the recent passing through of the Budget Act. You don't have to worry, because all this data were available online for the whole world. You don't need to be an American resident to do all this. By reading this, you know that, well, the budgets were estimated in this way or in that way, and what kind of factors were included, and what kind of factors were compromised. Right. So, before the end of today, let's go question 3. Question 3. What are the fundamental questions in corporate finance? I personally have a very strong habit since when I was young. Well, I'm not out now. That I would like to ask very fundamental questions. That was the reason why my teachers loved me and hated me. They loved me because I did so well in middle school, in high school, that I was always ranked very high, even though I did a very bad. I got a very big failure in my college entrance examination, and that led me to a 2-year vocational school business life, which was impressive because I've seen something that I have never seen. We'll have a discussion about that later. And what is the fundamental questions here? I will divide the core questions that can be dealt with in corporate finance into 2 groups. One is valuation or assessment. Right here. For example, A. How can we value a firm? No worry, I'll tell you later in very brief ways, because it's not a very important area in finance, but that can be so important in your later courses, like financial statement analysis, where we will start with the ideas of valuing a firm and the strategic ways of reading the financial statements, and then combining the statements and the techniques of valuation all together, getting a report which we call accounting-based valuations. But here, let's say, evaluation, what should we do there? the very first thing to ask is how can we value it? Well, we have two different ways. We can go straightforward, that is to estimate the future performance about the firm and then do it. Or we will find some counterparts to compare with. Okay, the second question is how can the market change the valuation? Well, you do have to feel panic about the valuation because it's a very big word. In fact, it can also mean something easier, like the value of a firm or even stock price. So now the question turns into whether the different market conditions can lead to different prices. For example, why does the firm stock price can be different between Hong Kong and China? It's very rare. No, not rare. It's very common, right? And also about the market change. Since 1990s, quite a few people in China just went to the United States for study, for business, or for migrations. However, they still realized that it wouldn't be a good idea to get the firms listed overseas. This is because at the time, even now, the appraisal of firms trying to IPO in China had a very long queue to wait. I think years, and even more, they just find it very hard to get listed, especially for some very small technology firms. So they decide to get all the stock listed in US, in Singapore, or even in China. Oh no, yeah, in China, in Hong Kong, China. But soon they realize the problem. That is, for most Chinese firms listed in Europe, or no, in New York, or other exchanges in the United States, you will find that stock price is always very low, not very high. So what happened? This answers the question, response to the question as to how can we value a firm and how can we the market change the valuation of a firm. And 3, how about the price recovery in the market? Price, no, not recovery, price discovery is. Well, my mouse. How about discovery in the market? Discovery is indeed the procedure that the market will just fluctuate and then converge the stock price into some equivalent that is close to the actual value of the firm. And sometimes it can be very long and sometimes it can be very short. We had a research published in 2019. We adopted a sample of 15 developing countries. And we find that comparing with their counterparts in US and Europe, the price discovery in this kind of market can be 10 to 15% longer than the advanced market. However, this situation was hugely improved when the government decides to do something. And it was my really first time of that. But the intervene is not important. Let's get back to the firms listed overseas. You find that most of them can be with very low stock price. That is, they don't have business in Europe. They don't have business in US. How can the investors really understand what you're doing here, right? Okay, it's about price discovery. And we also have some operations and asset management problems. So let's see. Operation related. I'll change the color. What is the price of an asset or transactions? Sometimes we have to decide whether to buy or not to buy or to improve our current equipments. And you all know that in the United States, the labor costs can be very huge. So they decide to make their own. However, they find the actual price of the decorations is way more expensive than what the people have told him. No, always believe in the stock price. And given the valuation process, we have a second question. Shall we go and buy or sell the assets. And when surge, how should I pay for the bill? Someone go crazy. You asking me how to pay the bill? Are you serious? Well, it's very simple, right? Alipay, WeChat Pay, or Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, all kinds of pay. I used to have a joke with my colleague saying that as a lecturer in accounting and finance, after years of teaching and research, I started to find that we have very limited scope of earning money, but we have very unlimited range of spending money. Well, I'm not sure whether that's good or not, but it sounds weird, right? So, income finance, how do we pay the bill? We can finance it, or we can just do some other alternatives. Okay, given that we have about less than 10 minutes left, I want to go further, and that'll be the end of the teaching today. Before leaving, may I ask that whether you have any questions to raise? Just type in the chat window and let me know. I'll stop the recording first, so you don't have to have any stress of having discussion like that. Okay, so stop recording.